Hi guys, I'm Stefano from Web Your Mind and I'm glad to welcome you to this lesson of the Laravel course. We will talk about migration and database seeding. We use migration to create, modify and delete tables from the database. And migration are useful for new installation and allow us to manipulate database object with zero knowledge of a SQL language. And unfortunately for the underlying database type too. So we can use MySQL or you can use any other kind of database DB, and these abstraction layers allow us to forget about particular implementation. In a similar way, we use database migration to upgrade the tables. We can update an existing table, adding or dropping a column, for example, or renaming the table, or whatever we need to change to the table. We use seeding to pre-populate tables in the database, or to tell it in other words, to insert data into database table in order to prepare for testing or for live production. First, let's say where our migration and seeding files are. We can put migration wherever we want, but the default directory is app/database/migration. Meanwhile, the seeding directory is app/database seeding. The directory used to run migration and seeding too is the root folder of our app. So migration and seeding, and we can say migration and seeding are run through the artisan tool. Then what is the artisan tool? Artisan is a part of the Laravel distribution, and we can consider it such a CLI or a command line interface to create basically several kind of Laravel files. In our case, migrations. And try to guess what language is written in. Yes, PHP, right. Let's take a look to the command line to create the migration, because we are going to write some code in a while. To create a new migration, we will use the command php artisan migrate :make, followed by the table name we want to create. The output is a new file, as you can see in the slide, created in the default directory we've seen before, app/database/migration, and the file name is a table name followed by a timestamp. The timestamp is used by artisan to run migration in the right order. If we open the file, we can see that the file contains two functions, the up function and the down function. The first contains the instruction to create the tables and the object in the database. The second one is used to roll back the migration. To execute the migration, so we have two choices, or create the object, or remove and roll back the object created before. To execute the migration, we use the command line, the command php artisan migrate, and to roll back php artisan rollback. Let's move to the directory app/database seeding and create a new file called databaseseeder.php. In this file, we will create a couple of classes and make them inherit from seeder class. Both the classes must have a method called run. This convention is used by artisan to run the seeding command. What else to say? Okay, to run the seeding, we have to issue the command php artisan db:/seed.
Let's open the file app/config/database.php to assure that everything is in order to connect to the database. So in one of our past lessons, we set the configuration, define the username, the password, and the database name. And now we are going to use this configuration to run migration and seeding. So the next step is to create the database, the user, and grant the user to the DB. I have here 3 snippets to create those objects in the database, and they are in MySQL syntax. The %characters tells MySQL that the user can connect from any host. Usually we put the localhost keyword instead of the %character to limit the connection from localhost only, and this is for security reason. But for this particular course, I want to connect directly from my PC with the MySQL Workbench client, so I use the %character. Now let's copy the first statement. First of all, let's connect to the DB using the MySQL client, MySQL-u and the user. Then we have to only to paste the string copy before, and we can see the query OK, 0 affected, everything's fine. Now let's copy the second row in order to create the DB, back to the shell, paste, and hit enter key. Now we have one row affected, so we have created the database. Now we have to connect the user to the DB. So let's copy the third string, paste in the client, in MySQL client, and give the enter. We can say the database name and the username, followed by the syntax % to connect to allow connection from any host, and we set here the password with the keyword identified by. Okay, now the query OK, we have done the DB setup, the basic DB setup. Now we are going to create the actual migration file. To do this, we will use artisan. We talked it just a little before, and this tool is used to create stub files and doing something boring activities. So let's issue the command php artisan migrate : make, and then we have to choose a file name. It is important to use a significant file name, so we can say create underscore menu and order table. Let's see, enter, and we have here the output of the artisan command. It seems everything goes fine. Now let's take a look at what artisan created for us. So let's go to the directory app/database/migration. Here we have two files, one called test.php and the other the one created by our previous operation. So we have the date and the time created and the name we choose for the file. Okay, now let's open it and see what artisan created for us. We have two functions, function up and function down. The first is used to create the migration, and the second one is used to roll back the migration. Now we will fill in the function, both function up and down. So first of all, we have to use call the static method create from the schema object. So schema double semicolon create, and we pass two parameters to this function. The first one is the name of the table. We choose a menu, and the second parameter is it's a closure or a function with a single parameter $t. $t is the reference of the just created table. Okay, now we have to define the columns that compose the table. The first one is usually it's an identifier, an auto increment identifier, and usually it is called ID. This is the unique identifier of our row. The second column, it's a menu table, so we have the name of the dish. So this is the data type is string, and the field name is dish. Okay. The third column, we can define a third column called price. We define it as an integer. The integer, and then the name price. Okay, the last thing we can add to our table are the two standard columns of Laravel tables. And there are two timestamps, and this instruction generates two columns called created at and updated that. Now fill in the down function to use to delete the table if we want to roll back our migration, and we use the schema object and the function delete, and we pass as first parameter the name of the table. Sorry, it is a drop, not delete. Now it's time to run our migration. We use the artisan command, and it is PHP, obviously from the root of our application. So PHP artisan migrate. Here we have a warning, we answer yes, and then we can see that migration table create successfully migrate in the name of the table. We can do a check. I use MySQL Workbench client to connect to MyDB. You can use whatever you want. And in the table in our schema, Mr. Pizza DB, we can see two tables menu with the column created by us. We have ID, dish, price, and created at and updated at, and the two default columns used by Laravel. We have another table, migration, with the two columns, migration and batch. If we can do a select, we can see there is only one row, and it is the migration we have just run. But we don't care about the table because it's handled by Laravel. So to do the complete trip, we can roll back our migration using the PHP artisan migrate semicolon rollback. I'm sorry for the mistake, and we have the same warning we've seen before. We answer yes, and roll it back in the name of the file. Now, if I go back to my client and do a refresh of the schema, we can see that the menu table has disappeared, and if we do a select on the migration table, it is empty. Now that we know that migration and rollback works, we can add a second table, the table orders. I copy and paste because I'm lazy. So let's change the name of the table to orders. We have a first field called ID exactly as above, a second field with the name of the person who make the order, the field email, and another field. Sorry, we have another field with the total of the order, the total amount, and we have the address, the physical address of the person who did the order to deliver our pizzas to the guy who makes the order. We can do the down part for dropping the new table into table order. Simply use a schema drop, and then run the migration with the PHP artisan command, PHP artisan migrate. Okay, migrate created. Now we can see on the client, with a quick refresh of the tables, we can see migrations and menu and order tables. And finally, let's seed our DB. I created a file called databaseseeder.php in the directory database/seeds, and I copy the file from the Laravel official site, and I copy the class. We have a class database seeder that extends seeder, and with a single method run. In this method, we call the below class. This class is the one that really do the work. We have here the method run, and when we call PHP artisan seed, it calls for first the first run method of the class, and then our class. Now let's explain the code. We use the DB object and the function, the setting function table, passing the table name. First we delete completely delete the table, and then we use the insert function, passing an array of array. Now running the PHP artisan command, PHP artisan DB seed. Sorry, I did a little mistake. So running this command, we are seeding the DB. Okay, that's now we can take a quick look to the table, and we can see the two records previously inserted with the seeding. You can do as homework the seeding of the other table, the table orders. The lesson is finished. I hope you enjoy it, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel using the huge button here. If you want, you are encouraged to leave a comment, a suggestion to using the social networks. Bye, see you to the next lesson.